Oh my... Son. Can you please go away? I know it's like 2 in the afternoon. Can you please go away? Can you please go away? Because you're fucking bright. At least I don't... I mean, I look pale, but... I don't look like a ghost. Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darren, and we got a lot of stuff to take a look at for BFA. We got zombie mounts, which I'm actually kind of excited because we haven't had anything like that. So that's really cool. But before we get into that, Blizzard recently nerfed tanks. First of all, before we get into the tank one, if you're somebody who's still trying to get your Mythic and Taurus done, they now have allowed you to do it, and you're not limited to your server. So let's say you couldn't find a guild in your server, or you're looking for pub groups, or simply just nobody on your server, or just nobody you know that's nearby cannot get the Mythic raid done. Well, now they're opening up to LFR, to LFG, so you're more than welcome to start looking for groups. I feel like it'll be a lot easier for a lot of people to get in, plus it's also the end of the expansion, so give as many people the opportunity to get the Mythic one done. And honestly, I guess it's fine to have it start server base, so then big guilds like they've been working for it can really get the achievements first, because I feel like if you do it through LFG, it'll be so much easier, so much quicker, because you can get any player from any server and it wouldn't matter. But that's pretty cool, because now people can get their ults or the mains, or finally get any of the bosses done for the achievement. First thing though, for PvP, they nerfed tanks. There it is. The tank nerf. Why do they nerf tanks? If you haven't been playing Arena, a lot of tanks have been appearing in the Arena. I don't think tanks make the game fun for PvP. Simply because tanks are almost impossible to balance. Like, they just seem like an absolute nightmare to balance, which is why I said in the past, I feel like they should just remove tanks so then you don't have this issue, or balance them. And Blizzard, I mean, it's Blizzard and it's WoW PvP, so balancing is not the strongest suit. I mean, eventually they get the balancing done, but usually there's some unintentional things that come in. Like, remember when bear druids were doing like 3 times more damage than a feral, and they would actually never die? You would have a self-healer, you have amazing defensives, you had more CC, you had a fear as a druid, and you simply did more damage. I mean, tanks are really hard to balance for PvP because you have a character, a specialization, that is tanky. Off the bat, you take less damage than your DPS counterparts. But for PvP, a lot of people want to be that tank and do damage like a DPS, and you can't have the best of both worlds. The only way you can make tanks viable, I think, is if you make them do damage, but everybody still wants to be tanky, hard to kill, and whittle people down, and overall tanks have been a nightmare to balance, whether they are running flags in BGs, or whether they are participating as a damage in the arenas. And I actually got to play some prop warrior tanking, and me and Arcanite were both surprised just how much damage those guys did. Protection warrior together with a strong DPS like a demon hunter or a monk, you could literally just sit one target down, rotate a few CC, and you would just do so much damage. It's not even funny. It just didn't make sense just how strong it was, but it did. And so they nerfed Vengeance Demon Hunter, Tormentor, and Murderous Intent. Basically the taunt, where you'll basically taunt the enemy, and then they'll have a stack. For every person that hits them, they take more damage. So it was 5% per stack, so somebody could take ultimately 15% more damage at all times. So 50% more damage with a tank hitting you with whatever damage they're bringing, and a strong DPS slamming you, and maybe even a healer like a paladin or a monk using their melee wings or crane stance and combo you together with a couple damage with few CC. Like, it was just nuts. Then they nerfed Demon Hunter, Demonic Trample for another time. They nerfed that again down to 45-second cooldown. Duration is now only 5 seconds instead of 8. They nerfed Brewmaster, Monk, Guard, which apparently was really strong in RBGs. Hot Trub, I don't know what that was. Purify and Brew now deals 30% of Purified stagger damage. Purify and Brew deals 50% damage Purified as damage within 10 yards. That was strong. Then Paladin Forbearance, Faithful, which basically, for each active Forbearance, you've caused a cooldown recovery rate of Forbearance Chasm. Oh my god, they nerfed a lot of that. Shield of Virtue is the, when activating next Shield of Vengeance will interrupt and silence all enemies within 8 yards of the target. 45-second cooldown instead of 20. I mean, tanks just got nerfed across the board, which is ridiculous. I feel like for tanks, it is really hard to balance them. And what I've suggested in the past, which I don't know if Blizzard will ever do, because, I mean, it's PvP in World of Warcraft and Blizzard is just, for the longest time, if you've been playing for a while, I've been playing only since Cataclysm, but of the bat I already know that it usually, I mean, there's a lot of faithful wishes, but they usually are not as fast to get to it as the PvE aspect. If it's a raiding PvE aspect, they usually get to it that much faster. If it's a PvP aspect, it'll probably be broken for a week or 2 or 3 or a month, and then they'll go nerf it or buff it or however needed, which can be frustrating. I think tanks should be a playstyle, not you're a tank. I feel that for a warrior, it should be an option for PvP. Do you want to slash everybody with a sword, or maybe 2 swords, or bash them with a shield? And that's really as far as it goes. They should deal similar damage, but also be similar in terms of defensives. A protection warrior for PvP, I think, should not be tankier. Yes, it kind of goes against the whole, oh, but it's a tank, so it shouldn't take less damage. But I feel like to balance it, if you have all specs of warrior, DPS and tank doing similar damage and similar DPS, it'll be a lot easier to balance. The tanking spec can also maybe have some honor talents that allow you less damage but more tankiness. Let's say you're doing RBGs and you want to do flag running, but it should be a tankiness that every tank has to kind of construed to, because every tank is different. Some tanks in the way they heal, the way they pop defenses, Vengeance Demon Hunters, Blood DKs, Druids, Monks, Paladins, and Warriors, all of them are different and have a lot of different abilities. And obviously that's a nightmare for Blizzard to balance. So there should be some kind of just a passive buff of health increase, damage decrease, damage taken decrease, and maybe cooldown recovery increase or decrease, maybe for more defensive uses or whatever, or more mobility uses. And I feel like some kind of a flat umbrella buff would allow Blizzard to maybe easier balance it, because sometimes they have a hard time going into and balancing specific abilities. And what they've been doing with honor talents is kind of just tuning agility a little more, versatility a little bit less, health a little bit more, stuff like that. So if they're doing a blanket like that for a lot of other DPS classes, but for tanks they will have to do nerf opposite the abilities that are an issue, I feel like they might as well just do what they did with the rest of Legion and just kind of find easier solutions to all of these things, kind of simplify it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of them going simplifying things, but it seems like they're going to continue pruning things for PvP. They're not adding more into PvP. So I feel like the best answer, if they're going to continue to prune, if they're not going to add, is to do another prune and just do some kind of a flat, simplified buff maybe. Just something to put them on the same ladder. I do think that if somebody was to play a Guardian Druid, compared to a feral, it honestly should be, oh, I want to feel like a powerful bear, but not be like, oh, I'm a tank and I'll tank every single hit and I won't die. I feel like it should be just as squishy as a feral, but it should be a playstyle option. You have a little bit of bleeds, a little bit of the mauls, and they hit kind of hard, and thrashes do some damage and whatnot, and moonfires and what la 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 la. You know what I mean? I feel like it honestly should be a playstyle change, because I feel like it'll be a lot easier to balance, and tanks would be viable for PvP because they can bring in damage. They don't need to be tankier than the DPS counterpart. They just need to have a different playstyle. I think that's in my opinion, that's probably the best way to find a solution. They also added a really nice mummified raptor in the game. It's actually very similar to the raptor you get as this is a gilded Ravasaur. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a mount you can get. Right now you can get it with a pre-order for BFA if you get the special edition or exclusive edition. I don't know what they call it, but if you get this one, that's kind of what it looks like. And this is the decrepit version, the zombie version. And I actually like the fact that we're seeing raptors again. You know, it feels like one of those mounts that always been around in the game since, I think, forever, and we just barely ever seen it in the game. So I really like it. I really think it looks really cool. Just the I guess the idea that they play around with it. And I've seen some of the other creatures in Zandalari, the whole decrepit zombie dinosaurs, like the T-Rex, how it has like skin peeling off. And I'm actually really digging it. I really want a mount like this, because I think it'd be kind of cool. I could go and convert my current BFA to special edition, so I could ride around the new Ravasaurs, but I think I want to save up and maybe save my gold or whatever I'll need to do in order to get one of these guys, because that looks really, really cool. Imagine having an undead warrior riding one of these things, like an undead warrior covered in Zandalari loot, covered in Zandalari gear, all nice and golden and maybe even faded type of gold, riding a zombie dinosaur. I mean, that'll be awesome. That is my current dream right now. And then there's also been a bit of a discussion of who could be the last boss, and I thought I'd make a video talking about, ooh, who could be the last boss of BFA. But honestly, that's not what I'm interested in. I do want to see where the story goes, and obviously we know Azara will make an appearance, but we also have a Kraken mount, or a Kraken boss that we'll be fighting in one of the Culture-Ass dungeons. What I think is going to be, and this is just kind of my, I guess, fast take on it, if I were to give my opinion, I think something about Culture-Ass, because we've seen some Culture-Ass priests that have like an undead model but tentacles on their face, like suction cups and everything. We've seen those kind of models in the game, so I honestly think it's gonna have to be something with Old Gods and Zoth and Culture-Ass side of things. With Zandalari, I'm not quite sure, because I feel like Zandalari somehow will be connected. The Zandalari have the blood trolls and they have the undead stuff going on, so I honestly think the Zandalari will be probably some kind of a boss before the last boss or something, or a side boss, kind of how we had with the Halls of Valor raid for Legion. I think it'll just be a side content, but I think a lot of the main ones will come from Azara, and I think it'll go into Nazath and more of those old god tentacly things. Because I feel like somehow they'll have to wrap up the expansion with some kind of a huge, colossal end game goal to fight against, you know what I mean? Because we kind of saw those guys popping up a bit here and there, especially during the allied races. So I think for the allied race quest lines for the Dark Iron, Zandalari, and whoever else is released, I'm pretty sure those guys are going to be popping in back and back. I kind of wanted a whole expansion of just Horde versus Alliance without any existential crisis, and I know we'll get that for a couple months, but I just hope this stuff doesn't really creep up on us too hard, because we were fighting literally otherworldly demons for however long now, and I'm kind of just tired of that. I kind of want it to be a Horde versus Alliance, the old school kind of the core World of Warcraft things that I remember from when I was younger playing the original RTS versions of Warcraft. So I'm hoping that doesn't come in and sneak up on us really quickly. Although interesting, I mean, it'll be interesting to see it eventually. I guess it's just my thoughts on it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on the big tank nerf, and let me know your thoughts on the mounts, and what do you think could be the last possible boss of BFA. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Likes allow my videos to reach a wider audience and grow my channel, and the channel has been growing pretty quick, so you guys could help me out with that. If you would, I would appreciate it. If you guys enjoy this kind of videos, discussions, BFA updates, patch updates, and 5.5.1.1 duels, go ahead and hit subscribe. We put out 2 videos a day, and if you guys want to catch some of the streams, the best way to do that is to be subscribed, but sometimes notifications don't show up, so hit the notification bell down below in order to be caught up to every single video that goes live and every single stream that goes live, so you guys can come in and even participate in the streams. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see all of you in another video.